Hi everyone, my name is Florentina Anton and I will be the moderator of today's podcast. I am one of the scientific coordinators for this year's edition of SURGICON. And as you know, SURGICON is an international congress that is surgically oriented, offering workshops, live surgeries, conferences, and other scientific events that cover all surgical specialties. Today's speaker for our podcast is Dr. Alexandru Carâp. He's a general surgeon at Clinical Emergency Hospital Sfântul Pantelimon in Bucharest, Romania. And he's also an assistant professor and a research assistant at Carol Davila University of Medicine and Pharmacy. He has been organizing multiple workshops in the previous editions of SURGICON, and he has been extremely involved and interested in creating high quality and useful experiences for the participants. Which is why we believe everybody wants to know more about what it's like to be a surgeon, what challenges has he faced, what it's like to be an assistant professor. And we want to thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
You're welcome, and thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to always be involved in SURGICON.
I'd like to begin with the first thing, and I would like to ask you, how did you decide to become a surgeon? When and how did you make this decision?
Well, that's a very good question. I decided to be a doctor when I was in I believe in the 7th grade, and I really liked biology. And I liked my teacher then, and I really wanted to be a laboratory biologist, I guess is the best term, studying behind the microscope, studying cells and molecular biology. Then I got into med school, and I was dating a student at acting from Paris for theater directing, actually, and we talked to each other, and we decided that we can't really talk about medicine, so I had to figure something out. And I decided to go into psychiatry, and then we could have something to talk about. And this very well-crafted plan went out the window when I started my surgical rotation. Back then it was in the 3rd year of med school. And I got to the hospital, and I met my current professor and his back then first-year resident. And I created a bond. I started going to the hospital more than what was required for school. I was going when they were on call. And I remember one night suturing skin, which is maybe one of the simplest things you can do as a surgeon. But I remember being so ecstatic about it and imagining I saved the life and so on. So that's when everything went out the window, and I decided I was going to become a surgeon, a general surgeon. So this was 3rd year medical school when I decided to be a surgeon. And there was no way of there was no other alternative during med school. So from that moment on, I was treating the other subjects, which is not necessarily correct, but that's what I did. I was treating the other subjects as learn from this the things that might interfere with your surgical practice, right? So I don't know in-depth cardiology, but I can spot an MI or an arrhythmia that could, I don't know, complicate one of my patients. Or yeah, so this is when I wanted to become a surgeon.
And can you tell me a bit more about the transition between you as a first-year resident and you now as a specialist? What changed?
Well, one of the things that changes a lot is when you get out of residency, you own your patients, you own your work, and ownership comes with a lot of responsibility. This is something that you would expect. This is a politically correct answer. Sadly, there's nothing better. It's the truth. The moment you own a patient, your perspective shifts a lot. So being a first-year resident is you work you care about patients. It's not that that changes, but I guess this is the best word the English language has. The ownership that graduating residency brings you is something very profound. You feel a lot more responsibility than you felt during residency. Maybe that's the biggest change. You obviously learn more, you can do more, but the biggest change is the fact that you have to set goals of care with your patients before surgery. You have to explain that something went wrong. You have to explain that someone died, which you didn't have to do when you were a resident. You work, you do your charts, you do procedures that you're allowed to do. But then all these other things happen without your knowledge, or your involvement is minimal. Maybe that's what I feel the biggest change is. It's a big change. It's a big change.
But how was your residency training? Was it really that exhausting? Were there many night shifts, I guess?
Well, everybody thinks they work the hardest and the longest hours, so I won't do that. Uh, uh, I guess all residencies are tiring, and you did work a lot. But one of the things that happens is that there's a kind of a choice about the amount of work you do, because there's work that you do in the hospital, which is the thing you have to do for that day. You go to one procedure, you do some charts, you talk to some people. But there's a lot of work in medicine that follows that. The reading you do at home, the imaging you review before surgery. So I guess to some degree you can choose how much work you put into medicine and into yourself eventually. So I wouldn't say residency was extremely tiring, because um, if you find pleasure in what you do, it will become easier in a way. I was doing, like, I don't know, 4 on calls a month, so you spend about 4 or 5 days, nights in the hospital. There were busier months, like when people went into vacation. The small ones get more on calls than usual. I had, I don't know, 8. I was on call 48 hours straight, like one after the other. That didn't happen often. It happened once or twice, but it is, I don't know, it destroys you. So the second day you're not necessarily okay, but it doesn't happen that often. Uh, so yeah, the level of work is maybe more a reflection of you than of the job, because you can do your job poorly and then you'll have a lot of free time. But you can do it well and free time goes away, and you work a lot. The advice would be to find the work-life balance, but that's another thing that everybody says and no one knows exactly how to do. Maybe the advice is to work as hard as your other part of life allows you. And yeah.
That's a very interesting perspective. I agree with that. But how much free time did you choose to have as a resident? Not really now. Um, and how did you? Where did you find the resources to read out of hospital at home? At home, let's say.
um well, I don't know exactly how to answer that question, because I don't have specific timelines that I can relate. But I let's just say I chose to invest a lot in my own education. A lot of medicine is teaching yourself, because there's a limited amount others can teach you. You have to walk your own path, so to speak. And very, very early on, I decided that English literature was the only literature I would ever read. I rarely read things written by Romanians in medicine, surgery specific. And but this didn't come when I was a resident. This came later, a big discovery for my career and the way I think about education at the moment, about surgical education, or podcasts. By podcasts, I understand audio almost exclusively, not video interviews, but audio exclusively. Those were big changes. That was a big change because that discovery led to discovering something that we can't really feel here in Romania. We know our hospitals, our way of thinking, our schools, our doctors, but through those audio sessions, let's say, through those podcasts, I discovered people that really love medicine, passionate about their work, challenging themselves to be better every step of the way, and I really liked that. It helped me a lot. So this is called answering a question without answering the question. I don't know how I chose to spend my free time back then. It's not like I spend all my time in the hospital or reading. I don't want anyone to get that impression. But I do spend a lot of time doing that today. Maybe even more today than when I did as a resident, because there's a famous graph with the Dunning-Kruger effect. You think you're very good, then as time passes on and you learn things, you're really bad, then you slowly start to accumulate. I feel like I'm very poor right now, and I'm starting to slowly understand some things I should understand. I thought I was very high. I thought I was very good, and maybe this is a plus of the English language because I don't think I have a very good Romanian translation. But medicine is very humbling. You think you're doing great, and then something happens that really shows you who's boss, and that's biology. It's in no way you, no matter how good you are. So again, not answering the question. So try another.
But regarding the time one spends by himself reading and trying to become better, do you think it's more important to have a good mentor, or it's more important to spend a lot of time by yourself reading about surgery?
That's a brilliant question. Not a good question. That's a brilliant question. And this kind of circles back to what I was saying. The thing I found when listening to podcasts from the States and from Great Britain, Australia, all the English-speaking podcasts that I could listen to, is that I kind of found my mentorship that way. I kind of found figures that I looked up to that way. Because your question has a very simple and straightforward answer. A mentor is, I don't know, the best thing you can have, because he'll shape your thinking, or she. She'll tell you what to read. She'll make those hours that you spend by yourself reading be more productive. She'll complement your reading. So you go home and you study surgical technique or whatever from medicine, right? The treatment of heart failure. If a mentor shows you that, this paragraph is right, but there's something that was just published a year ago which contradicts this, and maybe you should check this out. Another thing that mentors do, and this happened to me extremely, I don't know, this really happened to me with my professor, is that we come at the same time at the office, at the hospital, which is crazy time. It's 6:30 in the morning. Nothing's happening at that time. But he came to the hospital at 6:30 when I was a student and when I was a resident. And I just got used to that. And now if I get to the hospital 10 to 8, I feel like I'm late. I feel like I've missed a part of the day. So mentors are hugely influential. And this is something I've thought about first years of residency. Maybe this is more useful for students. You really should try to select. Of course, you should select a specialty you like. Everything else will be a failure in your mind, and will get you frustrated. And you don't want to be frustrated for your whole life. But you should go to a place that is friendly to you. That if you feel it offers mentorship, right? Because I don't know, code, technical expertise, and books, everybody has that. But if someone allows you to learn, allows you to do things, allows you to become better, then you'll become better. So that's one of the main reasons I chose my workplace, because my professor, he was not a professor back then, but my professor allowed me to do things since I was a student, which, and I'm very grateful for that as we speak. Even if now, I don't know, I do other reading, I do other things, I do things differently. Sometimes, most of the time, I don't know, but mentorship is very important. And I tell this to students: go experience on call, because it's a very social thing, right? First year of residency, you don't know yourself, you don't know medicine good enough to do something, but it's a very social thing. You know, if you get along with your attending, you'll probably do more things than someone who's, I don't know, reading more but really doesn't get along. So that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. Everything should be very well structured, and you should do the same number of procedures if you're in this hospital or the next. But that doesn't happen in life. That's not the reality of things. So mentors are very important, to answer your question. Try to find one. Finding a good mentor is not easy. Not everyone gets to be lucky.
Yeah. You said earlier about calls being social. Do you remember your first time being on call as a resident?
I don't think so. No. I don't think so. No, I don't think I remember the first time, but I remember that period, and it was one of the best things that happened to me at that point. It was I was so obsessed with going on call that it was the highlight of my week. Absolutely. I don't know, soccer game, dates were not as exciting. They were exciting some, but that day was the best day of the week. And I don't necessarily remember a specific one, but I remember the atmosphere then, because I look at myself now, and when I'm on call and I get to sleep, I quickly go to my room and sleep immediately. Because I don't know, I could wake up in an hour or 2 or 3. Sometimes I wake up in 6 and I'm well rested. But you know, there's that feeling that you don't know. There's a saying: eat when you can, sleep when you can, and don't mess with the pancreas. So that's a surgeon's way of life. So sleep when you can. But at that time, when I was young and very energetic, if we had nothing to do at night, if we had 2 hours to spare, we would, I don't know, sit in a room and play cards, order pizza, talk, laugh, things I don't necessarily do now. But there are students that come when I'm on call, and I go to sleep knowing they do the same thing. So it's passed on to the next generation.
It sounds fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Not to mention the surgery. That's very attractive for a student. Going into the OR is very attractive for a student. It's attractive to me even now. But when I was a student, the highlight of my week entirely, I would have, I don't know, I would have went into a hernia with the professor. Happiest you could have made me all week. Yeah.
What's your favorite thing now about being a surgeon?
I don't know. It's a very tough. It's a tough question, because you're asking me to rank things, and I don't know how to rank different experiences. As every doctor, you love it when when patients go the way you want them to go. You love it when you're successful, and you hate it when you're not. So that's pretty easy to answer. Another thing I love is teaching. Teaching surgery. But that's again a very easy to give answer, and not saying that much. But I'll try. The thing I love most about medicine now, and the thing that gets me very excited and very curious and very, I don't know, giddy like a child. That makes me remember myself when I was a student, is uncertainty. What do I mean about uncertainty? There are clinical situations in which there's no answer. There's no answer. There's no correct answer. You can't use evidence-based medicine. You can't use your own experience because you're faced with a situation you haven't been faced before, or that there's a situation that's common, but people agree that there's no right or wrong. You can do that or that. Those things fascinate me. The moment we make decisions, how we make those decisions, because as rigorous as modern medicine is, with the apparition I think is not entirely correct, with the coming on the scene of evidence-based medicine and rigorous empirical research and so on, medicine still is in some ways very personal, very related to the person doing it, because different clinicians will take different decisions regarding similar scenarios and you'll make different decisions based on your personality, based on your mood at that moment. Some days you just want to operate, some days you feel maybe I shouldn't do this today. So those are moments that fascinate me. The decision making in conditions of uncertainty, for I don't know, a very short answer to your question would be, the thing that I like most today is decision making in conditions of uncertainty and understanding that process. Like metacognition, thinking about how you're thinking. I like that. I like that a lot.
That's a great answer, to be honest.
Yeah, thanks. I've been working on it.
A thing that I'm very curious about is how hard is it to deconnect from the patient stories. So maybe from time to time you meet patients that are hard cases, let's say, and they are a challenge, let's say. Is it hard to come home and not think about that anymore?
Well, I guess, again, there's no universally acceptable answer. It has a lot to do with yourself. Some things that are universally, I believe, true are that you're going to be severely influenced by things that go wrong and marginally influenced by things that go right. So if something goes bad, the rest of the day doesn't really matter. No matter how many patients came, I don't know, to do a post-operative checkup and they're fine. If something goes bad with one of the patients that is currently admitted, it ruins my day entirely. This is a very interesting relationship that I've pondered about, and I'll tell you why. Being able to disconnect is healthy for your brain. It's healthy for your social life. It's healthy for your, I don't know, home. But the thing that is in a way good about an inability to disconnect, about going home and still thinking about things, is that thinking will generate, in a way, your desire to accumulate knowledge and to grow. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I made this very clear. But if you don't care that your patient had a complication and you go home, you're very happy. Very good. It's very good for you. But if you go home and you're unhappy because your patient had a complication, you're more likely to open the book, read the procedure again, ask yourself what went wrong, give answers that are hurtful. Don't just blame it on someone else or on biology. Blame it on yourself. Maybe I didn't do this right. This will lead to growth. This will make you better. But as I said, it's a cost. It will make you unhappy. And there have been situations in my life where I was extremely unhappy related to patients. I don't recall so many situations being happy about patients because, as I've said, maybe this is universally true, your successes and the things that go right quickly forgotten, but the things that go wrong are, for some people, devastating, and they really take their toll. So I struggle with this. I wanna disconnect more. I want to disconnect easily, more easily. I want to be able to go home and say, okay, I don't care. Let's focus on this. Let's focus on, I don't know, going to dinner. On the other hand, I don't want that, because I want to keep reading. I want to keep getting better. So I have no answer. It's life. This is life. Life is very difficult to put in order, or at least I find it difficult to put in order. Maybe there are people that they don't feel the failure, but they understand that they need to go home and read, and they do this in a detached manner. So I'm not really affected by the complication, but I know that I had a complication. I know I must read that procedure more. I don't know if this can really happen. I don't know if there are persons like that, but I guess it could. If you can do that, this is the best case scenario. I mean, you're happy and learning, but I don't think you can do that. So yeah, that's the answer.
How does one normal day of your life in the hospital look?
So there's a big difference if I have students or I don't have students, and I've changed the way I teach a lot over the years. So at the moment, if I have students, they're just around me. If I don't have students, then it's just myself. But if I have students, I'm trying to do as much as I can what's called clinical immersion. I mean, I try to take them with me and make them a part of my day. I go to operate something. One of them goes with me to the OR. The others do something else with my residents, and so on. So that's a big difference if I have students or not. Of course, when I have students and we do something clinically, we see a patient and so on, then I have to give some explanations. Then I need to explain my reasoning, say it out loud. If I don't have patients, if I don't have students, the typical structure of my day is this: I go to the hospital very early and I round on my patients. I see all my patients. I see them clinically. Then I see if I ordered any labs, because I order my labs at 6 o'clock, so they're there when I arrive at the hospital. Then there's the rounding with the professor and the on-call summary, right, at 8 o'clock. Then I usually, for about an hour, 8, 9, or 8:30, 9:30, I see post-op patients, and I see pre-op patients. I consult at that time, either post-op or pre-operatively, patients that aren't admitted. And then 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30 varies around this time. I go to the OR. And then when I finish the OR, I usually round on my patients again, the ones that are admitted, and then I go home. And this is very variable. I mean, there are days when, I don't know, 1 o'clock you get to go home. There are days when 4 o'clock you get to go home. So it's not a 9 to 5 job. It's very, very shifting. Surgery does that because you can plan all you want. Post-operative complications destroy all your planning. You have to rearrange your day at that point. You can't say I'll be home by 5 reasonably and expect it to happen often. Right. So yeah, that's a typical day for me.
Yeah, I'm thinking most of the time you cannot really predict how long you're going to stay in the OR.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, you can make reasonable assumptions. You can anticipate hard things and easy things, but numerous examples where something you thought was hard ends in 15 minutes, and something you thought was going to be easy turns out to be, I don't know, a 3-hour disaster, and it completely messes your day. Yeah, that's something you should understand about yourself and about surgery in general, all surgical specialties, that they're unpredictable. They have a very high degree of unpredictability compared to other disciplines. You should be able to understand that and to integrate that in your life, because it's challenging. Telling your wife 3 times in a row, I'm gonna make it home by 4 o'clock, and never making it is not easy to handle. You need to be able to do some explaining. Yeah.
I see. Do you remember the most complicated or the hardest surgery you've ever been in?
Funnily enough, I can. Um, do you want me to tell you about that? It was a colleague's case that I don't know how much technical details I should give, but I guess you're all med students, so I'll go into details. It was an acute cholecystitis operated on by a colleague of mine 3 months prior to that surgery. And the patient came back 3 months later with jaundice, right? So she was jaundiced. Something happened because of that procedure. And this was Saturday when she came into the hospital. We were on call Saturday, me and my colleague. He was the chief surgeon on call. I was second in command, so to speak. We did what we had to do during that day on call. Saturdays are sometimes slower than weekdays. But we decided foolishly, extremely foolishly, but we decided to operate on that lady on a Sunday, on the next Sunday following the Saturday that we were on call. And we started, I don't know, 9 o'clock. We left maybe 6, 7 in the afternoon. Took 10 hours. No, so I'm wrong. 9 plus 10 hours, it's about 7 o'clock in the evening. So I remember it took 10 hours. I don't know exactly what hour we started, what time we started, but it took 10 hours. We struggled for the whole procedure to find the bile duct. This is what we were incredulous ourselves. We were looking at each other and saying, we can't spend 10 hours looking for a duct. It wasn't like we had to resect 3 organs and one took 3 hours, the other took 3 hours. No, we looked for a duct for 10 hours. And we were very close to giving up, closing the patient and saying we couldn't find the duct because things happen. You can't do everything you want to do. We thought about calling someone that specializes in liver transplant. Maybe they have better luck in finding the duct. And then through sheer luck, my colleague actually left the OR, went to sit down for a few minutes. And as I was trying to, find the duct, I went with a syringe in something. I drew, and bile came out of it. And I said, okay, I found the duct. And the duct was very hard to find because the condition that led to the jaundice is something that's called sclerosing cholangitis. So actually we were looking for a duct that disappeared. So it just turned into scar tissue. And after that, we did a biliary digestive anastomosis, and everything actually went great. But that was one of the hardest things I remember ever doing. And I don't know if you can understand looking at the same thing 10 hours straight and trying to find something, and you can't find it. You just can't find it. You're looking at, where could this be? So we were very lucky to find it. This was the hardest thing I ever did with someone, with a colleague. Yeah.
But I'm guessing it took a lot of patience to look
I
for
don't
it for
even.
10 hours.
I don't know if we were patient. I think the things we said during those hours can't be reproduced, and can I don't know if they can be regarded as patient people, quietly waiting for something to happen. I think we were at the end of our wits. We were at the end of our physical abilities because we were after a day on call and 10-hour surgery. So yeah, it was fun though. I mean, I've told this story a few times, and I use it as a teaching tool. I tell people, that's why cholecystectomy should be done right, because this will kill you one day, right? Yeah. So that was the hardest thing I remember ever doing from a technical standpoint, because maybe the hardest thing you do is, I don't know, telling someone young dies. So yeah.
You told us earlier about teaching.
Yeah.
What about teaching? What is the biggest challenge about being a teacher?
Well, I guess the biggest challenge is to make people learn things. I know this sounds very easy, but this sounds very simplistic in a way. But the thing I'm thinking about when trying to teach better is, how can I say this so that people will retain this information? Because um, even if it's frowned upon, learning is actually memorization. And we like to think that, or we don't like to think, we actually invent little things that make sense in our mind. But in essence, it is memorization. You get better because you know more things. So that's what I'm thinking about now with students, is how can I say this so that it'll stick into their brain, right? And I try. I find my ways to say it, but um, but it is something that's changing continuously. I'm not teaching now as I used to teach when I started. In fact, if I look now at, if I'd see myself now teaching back then, I'd be horrified. I'd be extremely dissatisfied with that person, and I'd like to publicly apologize to those students. So yeah, this is the biggest challenge: making people retain things, and that comes along with a lot of things. I mean, you can't teach someone that doesn't like you. If someone doesn't like you and considers you phony or a fraud, or I don't know, pretentious. Oh, look at this guy, thinks he's the best. Uh, if someone doesn't like you, they're not gonna understand what you're saying. They're not gonna take it home and take it into their brain. If someone thinks you're weak, they won't learn as much, because we prize people that do good. Everything around us is nicest looking people doing the nicest things ever imagined. No surgeon ever had a complication. If you look on the billboards, never. We're all excellent, which is obviously not true. So yeah, trying to make people retain things is it comes with a lot of things. You tell jokes. You need to tell jokes. You need to make people laugh. You need to tell people they're wrong. But but people need to like you. People need to believe that you're really trying to teach them. They need to believe in your work. They need to believe that you are a better surgeon than they are, right? And that you're a good surgeon, that you're a good clinician. You can't expect people to believe you if you don't know what you're doing. Um, so yeah, the biggest challenge is this, and I'm very happy when people remember what I said. I'm very happy. That's a job well done. I'm obviously happy when people say they like me, because I'm human. Everybody likes when people say they like him or her. But the biggest, and maybe the biggest achievement is seeing someone use the thing you taught them to do good. Seeing my residents operating is is very rewarding. Because you taught them that, and they remember it, and now they're using it, and someone else benefits. That's why I consider education to be a privilege and something that's very important, right? So every rectal cancer operated on today is a testament to Bill Heald, which went across the globe to teach the surgical procedure, and he was operating with cameras that were this big. And he barely saw in the operative field, but he sacrificed himself in that moment so that other people could see. So when I try to think about the value of education, I think about how many years did Bill Heald give humanity because he decided to teach the thing that was better for in this case, rectal cancer patients. I'm going off topic here. The biggest challenge is to make people remember what you say. It's as easy as that, I think.
I think it's very, very hard to be a good teacher, and it comes with a lot of challenges. And I'm thinking this is a good answer.
Well, I think it's as hard as anything else. I don't think it's harder than other things. And the discussion circles because life really is the same in every aspect. As much time as you invest in teaching, that's how good you'll be. If you think about a plan for your lesson, you give them something to read, then you come back to what they read and you ask, I don't know, how did they get here? And then you show them a patient. If you invest in that, then you'll have better results. If you don't invest, if you do it poorly, it's not so hard, but it won't be as effective, obviously. You won't be a good teacher if you don't spend time with teaching in itself.
Would you advise students to do research work or to be involved in scientific or academic activities, writing scientific articles? Do you believe it would help them to become better?
It's a very tough question because there are clinicians that are good clinicians, and that's it. They don't write, they don't publish, they don't read journals, they read the textbook, but they know that textbook very well, and they've treated patients, a lot of patients, and they have a lot of experience, and they spend so much time in the hospital that you can't equal that. So I think the answer maybe seems very straightforward, and the answer should be yes. I encourage people to do research, I encourage people to write, I encourage people to read journals, but it's not that simple. We all have a structure, and we should try to find it if we can and be true to that structure. Aside from what I've just said, I write, I read, I do research. It's something I like, and it's something that academic medicine needs. You need to write to be to promote in academia. So you can't be an assistant professor if you didn't publish. You can't go higher up the ladder if you didn't publish. So these things are intertwined. If you want to teach, you need these things. But I don't think you need these things to be a good clinician. So I don't know what to say. If you find you enjoy that, do it. Reading articles will definitely help you read them better, because reading journals is not easy. It's not as easy as reading. You need to do something that's called critical appraisal. You need to do something more than just read. Otherwise, you're just, I don't know, a fool reading and believing everything you're told, which is incorrect. So you need to know how to read, and writing will help you. Doing research will help you learn how to read, because you'll understand the things that you have to do, to get good results. Not good as in positive results, but quality research, even if it's negative, even if you show that antibiotic B is not better than A. But if you do good work, if that work has a certain quality, that will have meaning. If you do poor work, then whatever the result, better or worse, it won't matter. And doing research will help you understand. But I don't know what to tell you. I know good clinicians that don't do research and don't publish, and they're excellent clinicians. They just choose constant work. For me, yes, I'd say yes. I think I would encourage someone to do this.
I think it would be very motivating for students to become more involved in research,
Yes.
to become better.
Yeah.
I would have one last question. You've been involved in SURGICON in the past. How was the experience? What it's like to coordinate workshops for students? I'm guessing it's very similar to teaching in the hospital with your students. How was it like? How did you enjoy teaching students, teaching the participants from the workshops? Did you?
Well, of course I enjoy it. I do it frequently, so I'd better enjoy it. Otherwise, I'm just harming myself, which I tend to try not to do at least. Teaching workshops is different than teaching med students because it's very brief. You only get 3-4 hours. They don't get to. I mean, if you teach medical students and you do something bad, there's time to catch up. There's time to make it better. While you're teaching a workshop, you'd better be very, very good the entire time. Otherwise, you lose the whole experience. So it's better rehearsed. My workshops are better rehearsed than teaching I do for med students. They're exactly the same. I do the same thing every time I do a fast workshop. Every time. And I've done it, I don't know, maybe 50 or more times in my life. But that structure has, I don't know, evolved because it has paid off and because it had good feedback and because now I'm confident that at the end of that structure, I will have made people retain knowledge, which, as I've said, I think is the thing I want most. Another thing that workshops do is that while brief, the connection is very intense. There's few people and you're talking to them continuously over 3 or 4 hours. So that's a chance to maybe, outside of transmitting knowledge, you can transmit a feeling better, a passion for something. In my case, let's say a passion for ultrasound. Telling them continuously why this is important, why this is fun, why this will lead to you becoming better. So yeah, it's brief, but it's intense. It's different than normal teaching, but I love it a lot. I do it a lot. I do workshops for medical students a lot. So yeah, SURGICON is a place where I do my workshops. It's focused on surgery. I'm a surgeon, so I'm very happy about SURGICON, so to speak.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we really hope to see you again at the 4th edition of SURGICON this October. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for your questions and thank you for inviting me. It was very nice.